Look, I got a confession for you. You're the only one I can turn to, GigaChad Strawman audience member. I know you mean well, so you're the only one I can tell this to. I, don't like Five Nights at Freddy's 3.
Oh my god!
This applesauce look delicious.
But seriously, I'm a pretty big fan of the original Scott Cawthon FNAF games. I was in middle school when they started coming out, so I was the prime demographic for the series at the time. And the mobile versions spread like a virus, infecting every kid at the lunch table with a single thought. Freddy. I played them all through Pizzeria Simulator, which I thought to be the best kind of ending the series could get. And then it didn't. FNAF World, the VR games, book after 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 book, and then they drop Security Breach.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
By this point, I'm out. The direction of the mainline games has shifted hard, and in a direction that feels like it more directly appeals to children, and I think very intentionally so. And if I was still in middle school, I think that'd probably be pretty cool. But I'm not, so it doesn't hold much appeal for me. I'm much more interested in the actual horror side of the franchise. Although of the new games, I think Secret of the Mimic does seem pretty interesting, but I just can't get over that stupid song. And so these days, outside of the movies, I haven't really kept up with the official franchise. Instead, I'm a pretty big follower of the FNAF fan game scene. I've played a ton of them, good and bad. Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese, Five Nights at Candy's, Candy's 2, Candy's 3, Pop Goes, The Joy of Creation, FNAF 2 Open Source, The Fake FNAF Plus, Juniors, Fazbear Entertainment Stores, The Return to Bloody Nights, Shadow over Freddy's, Freddo and Friends Left to Rot, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's, Final Stories 2, Final Stories 3. I've played Post Shift 2 and Dormitibus. If that doesn't mean anything to you, look them up. They're both really bad. One is way worse than the other one. All that to say, I've got a lot of investment in these games and the creators that put the time and work into making them. And particularly, I really enjoy ones that pay homage or put a twist on an original environment or idea from the official games. Having just seen Five Nights at Freddy's 2 in theaters with my friends, I really enjoyed Fazbear Entertainment Storage. Check that one out for a different take on Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and the toy animatronics. It's really fun. But for the sake of this video, I'm wanting to highlight a fan game that honors and does something really unique with my least favorite mainline Scott Cawthon entry, Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Now, GigaChad Strawman audience member, put the pitchfork down. I know you enjoy FNAF 3 almost as much as Sonic R. I know. Let me explain myself. FNAF 3 was the third game that Scott Cawthon released in the span of a single year. The length it took for me to make another YouTube video. Huh. It's an important entry, finally introducing the main antagonist of the series that I think the public has really attached to in really creative ways and creative ways. And I think some of this stuff might be a worse fate than his actual end.
Michael, don't leave me here! Michael!
His direct presence in the story directly sets up the end of the games by being the 5th game chronologically? I'm not sure. And overall, I think Five Nights at Freddy's 3 has a great atmosphere, swapping out the typical pizzeria theming for a haunted house attraction based around the legends of the deaths caused at the franchise. So I think the game definitely has some positives for it, it's just, I don't like looking at it or playing it, like FNAF World. One of my favorite things about early FNAF is Scott Cawthon's dated visual style that to me is almost reminiscent of claymation. Really, it's reminiscent of those old 90s point-and-click PC adventure games. They have this uncanny feel to them. And those renders are the reason he got into horror in the first place, and many of the renders here look great, I just can't see any of them. FNAF 3 has more brown and dark green visuals than Call of Duty 3. And even if you try to appreciate the visuals and renders, when you play the game, you're just bombarded with jump scares. And these jump scares don't even kill you. When you actually even get killed, it's just a Springtrap. Compare that to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which still isn't my favorite entry in the series. Wait, hold on! I do love the massive, imposing hallway you have to stare at, and the Foxy jump scare, it gets me to this day. So, despite some clunky gameplay, I feel like FNAF 2 is able to keep me tense and afraid of the coming scares at any time. While 3 front-loads itself with so many scares that by the 4th night, I'm completely numb to all of them. So I think that FNAF 3 has a lot of really cool things going on, but I don't think that the overall experience comes together well. There have been some attempts to tweak the gameplay through things like the fake FNAF Plus, overhauling the visuals and scares, and that fan game specifically has a really good video talking about it, but I'm not necessarily looking for the game itself to be redone. Instead, I really like the idea of Fazbear Frights and using that for a horror setting. The idea of there being a meta-narrative haunted house is something I find really fun. And so I want to highlight this solid little fan game made by some FNAF fan game veterans that does exactly what I want from the Fazbear Frights concept. That game is FNAF Killer Night. Killer Night is a small project made by fan game devs Fazzy Funbear and Leafy Bonzi, who are known in the fan game scene for being the creators of Playtime with Percy and Night Stars, respectively. 2 fan games with great coverage that you should also check out if you haven't. In between projects, the 2 of them put this together in the span of 2 months, an incredibly short turnaround for a project I find as high quality as it is. Killer Night doesn't play with the typical sit and survive format the franchise is known for, instead opting for a point-and-click adventure format reminiscent of those late 90s PC games I talked about earlier. The strange, uncanny ones that feel empty and foreboding. Anyone familiar with those games also knows that the gameplay in those is typically a series of fetch quests or mazes, and that technically applies to Killer Night. The game doesn't have that constant threat of danger typical of a Five Nights at Freddy's game, but has a really authentic, fun atmosphere to experience. Calling it a horror game might be a bit of a stretch. It's more a short thriller with a creepy atmosphere and really goofy mini-games you get to play. The game's visuals are insanely authentic to Scott Cawthon's signature crunchy, claymation-esque style, and the experience is fundamentally a walkthrough of what a real version of Fazbear Frights would be like, with mini-games and scavenger hunts. You're even armed with a notebook to take notes for some of the relatively simple puzzles, or if you're bored and you just want to draw a masterpiece. Here's mine. Each room has an animatronic that you refer to on how to progress to the next. Every animatronic has a big... What? Every animatronic has a nice, ominous angle that you have to interact with. The renders on these look excellent and are just creepy enough to keep you guessing on if anything is gonna jump out at you. I like the idea of each of them being split up into their own zone, something I think reflects how this place would be built if it was actually real. Like, of course, they've got Foxy in Pirate's Cove, and Chica's even in the kitchen, like how she used to hide there in the first game. Girl, you're making a mess. I know you're hungry. I think a lot of thought and effort went into not just making these environments dynamic and interesting, but also having these little splashes of character that help theme the location. I think it's cool. It's intentionally a very different kind of game from FNAF 3, but really does a lot to serve its environment and the characters. I find the ruined animatronics here to be much more interesting than the phantoms from FNAF 3. Although visually I like the phantoms, specifically the freaky little eyes, but much like most things in FNAF 3, it's hard to get a good look at them before they... Yeah. In comparison, Killer Night has the exact opposite design philosophy, giving you plenty of downtime to take in the environments and designs, and being overall really light on scares. Like, Is there even a threat here at all, or... Did you see that? There are these little blink and you miss it moments that serve to remind the player that they're not alone. You're being watched by something, and it's going to make its move eventually. It's me. I'm watching you through your screen. But yeah, I think you should check out FNAF Killer Night if any of what I showed here interests you, or if you want to see Fazbear Frights explored a little bit more than it was in the original game. The whole thing takes less than an hour to play, reflecting its short dev time, and like pretty much all fan games, is completely free to play, so definitely take a look. I'll have the Game Jolt page in the description, along with links for the creators. Leafy Bonzi is hard at work on Deerwood, his new game that has its own Game Jolt page that you should for sure take a look at. I think there's really promising stuff there. And Fazzy Fun Bear is currently in the process of porting Playtime with Percy to Steam with a bunch of additions and changes, so definitely check that out as it comes out. Let me know in the comments if there are any other fan games you want to see me cover that you think deserve some more coverage, and let me know what you think of Secret of the Mimic. I legitimately haven't heard anything on my side of the internet except for the song.
My name is Edwin. I made the mimic. It was difficult to put the pieces together.
And I want to know what the community thinks of the latest entry. I sincerely don't know. And I've actually got one more little addendum here to add on to the end of the video. I went through an absolute nightmare trying to make this thing. There's a lot of creative blocks that I went through and wanting to change my creative process and how I make videos, so I've sat on this idea for a while. When I finally sat down to record and finish this video, I ended up with this audio file that's just under 16 minutes long, and I edited the entire audio, mixed it, finished it, whatever. When I went to go put it in Adobe Premiere Pro to actually edit the video, the audio completely changed. If you look at it now, this is a completely normal WAV file with a bunch of peaks and lows, you know, standard conversational dialogue. When you actually listen to it though, it's just this. Like, what is that? What is that? Why did my computer get haunted while I tried to make this video? I don't understand. Yeah, I had to record it one last time to get it done and get this video finished. And I thought, I have to at least document that this happened in the video. Anyway. Alright everybody, I'm FallenEcho, you're Nightmare Freddy, and you're in my head. And I'll see you later.
I'm Nightmare Freddy and I'm in your head. I'm Nightmare Freddy and I'm in your bed. Better flash your lights, clip the holes all night. Flash the closet too, better flash it twice.